Hello, welcome to my marriage gym where we work out healthy marriages. My name is Enabasi Unogu. In this episode, I'm going to share with us on the subject how to de-escalate marital conflicts. How couples can actually degrade the velocity, the force of the occasional blowouts that comes as a result of one party misunderstanding the intention, or as a result of misinformation or inadequate information about a situation. Tempers arise and couple find themselves in a strife or a conflict situation. Tonight, I will share with us 6 tips on how conflicts can actually be degraded, that they do not result in some of the consequences that follows those events. Number 1 tip I will share with us tonight is for couples not to even allow the strife to take place, to prevent the conflict prevention. And this is the place of wisdom. This is God's prescription for strife. And I'll read to us from the scripture in Proverbs chapter 17, verse 14, on what God has to say about this. He says, "The beginning of strife is like releasing water. Therefore, stop contention before a quarrel starts." This is actually the best place to be, not to start a quarrel in the first place. It says it's like releasing water. Once you release water, you don't know where it ends. And the scripture also says in Proverbs 20 verse 3, it says, "An honor for a man to keep away from strife by handling situations with thoughtful foresight. But any fool will start a quarrel without regard for the consequences." So the Bible actually confers honor on the party that doesn't even start a fight. You can avoid a quarrel by being thoughtful, by being meditative about the situation at hand. This is the ideal situation, but unfortunately we don't live in an ideal world. So once in a while couples actually come to blows. It can be verbal conflict, as we discussed earlier. It can actually be physical, sometimes from verbal exchanges it can become physical. Number 2 tip would be to leave the fight. Be defenseless. Somebody says be defenseless. Leave the fight. In a typical boxing ring, one party throws the punch, is on the offensive, on the attack, the other party defends. And for as long as this is going on, the fight will continue. But a situation that one party stops the fight or leaves the ring, the fight will automatically end. So sometimes when this strife or situations arise, it will pay couple better if one party just decides, "I'm not going to go into this quarrel. I'm going to leave this fight. It's not necessary. I want out of it." Be defenseless. That is, don't defend and also don't attack. So one party can decide to leave, or both can decide this contest is not necessary. Number 3 tip is take ownership of your role in the situation. Take ownership of your contribution, because whenever there's a conflict, when it starts, any conflict that is allowed to fester, at the end of the day, nobody is right. The 2 parties are wrong, because there's something you could have done to stop the situation. So you can afford to take ownership, and taking ownership simply means, oh, I'm sorry, I'm wrong. Simple I'm sorry is one magic pill that will cure a whole lot of marital conflicts. But sometimes pride gets in the way and nobody wants to be seen to lose the fight. And to say I'm sorry becomes a very hard thing to do. Take ownership of your own. I'm sorry, I could have done it differently. Please forgive. And that will just take the wind out of the battle. Number 4, find common ground with your spouse. Agree with your spouse. Because whenever there's a conflict, everybody is trying to be heard. Everybody is trying to be heard. But imagine a situation that you just say to your spouse, oh, you're right. You're actually right. And I am wrong. Once you find that common ground, you're saying to your spouse, I have heard you. And once you say that, automatically the other party is going to, so she agrees with me or he agrees with me. And that is going to bring down the tempo. And then you can discuss the issue rationally as adults and matured people should. Look for a common ground to say, yes, I agree with you. And I call this extending grace to your spouse. We should find occasion to extend grace. Grace is unmerited favor, they say. So, yes, you may be right or I might be wrong, but I decide to agree with you that you are right. Number 5, silence what I call the inner lawyer. The inner lawyer is that voice in your brain that is saying, you are right and she is wrong. You are right and he is wrong. For as long as that voice is speaking to you, whenever there's a conflict, that conflict is going to escalate. So you can say to that voice, be silent, or you just shut it down. And what that will do automatically is you're going to find room to address the issue at hand. Silence the inner lawyer. Finally, stand together against the misunderstanding. The Bible says, give no room to the devil. A lot of marital conflicts, the truth is emanating from the manipulation of the unwanted enemy of the relationship. Our common enemy is the devil. And Bible says, don't give him room. I will share with us an insight a friend, a family friend, shared with my husband and I many years ago. Very hilarious couple. And the lady said to me, you know, sometimes when we quarrel, we find ourselves, we are quarreling. And I would just say to my husband, my dear, we have allowed the devil in. And by her own testimonial, that does two things. Number 1, it introduces humor into the situation. And number 2, it actually reminds them that you're not my enemy, I'm not your enemy. It's actually the devil. And it gives them spiritual insight and understanding. And that brings the problem to an abrupt end. Tonight, I hope you've been able to gather 1 or 2 things from this broadcast. But peradventure, if your situation or your marital situation is such that the problem is so deep seated that just applying these tips might not work, because these tips actually are for those occasional face off between couples. But if it is a more deep-seated situation, you can please drop me a line on mymarriagegym@gmail.com. mymarriagegym@gmail.com. Keep working on your marriage and it will work for you. Bye for now.